evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. My name is Darby Line. I am the Vice President of Jam and All Interfaith. And I would like to issue a special greeting to our Muslim brothers and sisters who may be watching the replay of this as we approach the end of Ramadan. We wish you all an early and heartfelt Eid Mubarak. Joining me behind the scenes tonight, as every month, is our good friend, Reverend Todd Humphrey, who is our Zoom host for the evening. And as he has been all along this incredibly challenging year, he's helped to make this online series and all of them possible. And we're so grateful to you, Todd, for everything you do to help us. And Todd's going to be joining us a little bit later to explain how we do our breakout groups and all of that stuff. But for now, just know that there is an awesome person behind the scenes working the magic. Tonight, our focus is on opening doors, awakening awareness. And it's the second in a series of 3 dialogue sessions on the theme of awakening the heart, which is presented by Jam and All Interfaith. And for those of you who don't know us, maybe joining us for the first time, Jam and All stands for Jews and Muslims and all people. And Jam and All was founded shortly after and actually in response to 9/11. And if you do the math, you will realize that that means we are 20 years old this year. And our mission throughout those 2 decades, as it is now and continues to be, is to connect people through conversation and education to help bridge the gaps between us, to build understanding and peace and harmony, and always with the emphasis on dialogue. We share our hearts, encourage others to share their hearts, to build the bridges and break down those barriers that separate us. So tonight, we're going to continue to awaken the heart by focusing on awakening awareness. And we have, as usual, another wonderful guest speaker who's going to introduce the topic for us. And then we're going to break out into our discussion groups after that for 30 minutes, and then we'll come back together. And there may be some of you who are joining us tonight specifically to hear our amazing presenter tonight. I encourage you to stick around when she's done, because our discussion groups are rich and deep and always enhanced by having more people. And our guest presenter is going to be coming back after that. So as they used to say when I was a kid on TV, don't touch that dial, stay right where you are. We'd like to have you with us for as long as you would like to stay. So I first met tonight's guest presenter when I attended a workshop that she facilitated at the Darshan Center in Oakland Park. And I was really moved by her story, by her presentation, by her teaching, but most of all by her humanness, her authenticity, her just down-to-earth, genuine, amazing person that she is. So it's an honor for me to re-meet her again this evening and to introduce her to you. Reverend Dr. Grace Telesco is known to a lot of people, not just here in Florida, but also up north in the New York metropolitan area as well. Here in Florida, she served as a professor of sociology, theology, social work, and criminal justice at Nova Southeastern University in Davie. And up north, for 20 years, she was a member of the New York Police Department. And somewhere in the midst of those 20 years, 9/11 happened. She served on the NYPD during those incredibly challenging times as the coordinator of the mental health response. And just kind of wrap your head around that, working directly with the families of the victims. Reverend Grace moved to Florida in 2005. She was initiated into the sannyasi order in the Hindu tradition in the lineage of her guru, and given the Hindu name Swami Sharadananda. She's an ordained interfaith minister and a graduate of the new Seminary for Interfaith Studies in New York. And there's obviously a powerful story between New York and Florida. Really a sacred story, and you might say a sacred journey, which might explain why she is the co-founder and dean of the Sacred Journey Interfaith Seminary in Oakland Park, Florida. She's also the spiritual director and senior clergy at the Darshan Center for Spiritual Evolution at a healing space in Oakland Park. And she didn't include it in her bio, but I have heard by the grapevine that she's also a pretty amazing musician, in addition to all her other credentials. She's a remarkable human being with a remarkable life journey, truly a sacred journey of service in so many forms. So it is my honor and my privilege to introduce to you the Reverend Dr. Grace Telesco.
Namaste, and thank you. What a amazing intro, Reverend Darby. Thank you so much. We've gone to sister seminaries. I know Reverend Darby is from One Spirit, graduate of One Spirit. I'm a graduate of the new seminary, and then we have our our new seminary, not the new seminary, but a new seminary, as you said. And shameless plug, we are accepting applications for our September class. If you have the calling to be an interfaith minister, um, talk to me, chat me. I have a couple of our students. Reverend Sue is in the house, and Reverend Stephanie is in the house, and Reverend Opal, who is on our board, is in the house, and of course, my beloved Sister Chris. So anyway, shameless plug. Yes, we're going to be starting in September the ministerial program. And I before we started, I was listening to some of the conversation, and I was hearing people say how wonderful it would be to learn about, all these different faith practices and the rituals that are associated with them. And well, another shameless plug, we also have a doctorate and a master's in interfaith theology. So you get to really dig deep into those things. Thank you so much for asking me. It's a blessing to be asked to share my thoughts on awakening acceptance. I think it is. I think it's opening doors, awakening acceptance. And when I first heard the word acceptance, I immediately went to my recovery background, which tells me that we accept people, places, and things, and circumstances and situations that we have no control over. And those of us who have a spiritual understanding and a spiritual practice, well, I don't want to say it's easy to accept, but what I fall back in knowing that there's a divine plan at play, that the divine, the source of all that is kind of, the behind the scenes global operations director, if you will, that's taking care of all of, the little and the big, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Knowing that, I can kind of fall back and surrender and know that all will be well no matter what. So why is it then that I have such a difficult time with that? I'm a human being. Reverend Darby said it. Thank you so much for saying that, because, hey, that's what keeps me going. I think is recognizing and giving myself some slack, in that I'm a human being, and I'm this intellect, this limited intellect, this limited personality. I'm the ego self, really. I'm not, this Rev G and all those things that Reverend Darby just now said about me and all of that. Well, that's not me. Like, that's not really who I am. Who I really am, really, really am, is I'm made up of the same ingredients as my source. I am light. This is what I believe, right? I am light. I am love. I am bliss at the cellular level, not at the cellular level. And so when things are happening to me, good, the bad, and the ugly, and I say the ugly because sometimes life shows up in a way that it's rough. And as a minister, as an interfaith ordained minister, sometimes I have to struggle with the sinister, that I feel this pull to be sinister, especially when I feel frustrated by life showing up. Now, I also know that Jam is really focusing this series on the acceptance of others. So it's not just accepting the things I cannot change. It's not just accepting, life showing up. It's not just accepting the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's about accepting others. Well, it's the same principle for me. When I start looking at myself as different from others, when I start feeling either better than or less than, Why, that's my ego doing that. That's not the soul level, right? At the soul level, at the cellular level, there's no difference between us. And what I really, really like about your series and the name of it is, it's about that the connection really, this like aha moment really comes in the heart space. That's the door that opens the awareness of all of this that we're talking about is through the heart. It's not through the head. Because believe me, I have a master's in interfaith theology. And believe me, I, was ordained and, went to the new seminary and flew back and forth to New York every month for class. And I'm still diving deep as a student into spirituality. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to get it from here. At the end of the day, I'm going to get it from my heart space. And so when you go to the mosque and you do the salat, along with your Muslim brothers and sisters, there's something that you feel about that. You experience that. I could read about it, but it's not going to cut it for me. When you talked about 9/11, Reverend Darby, and that's when I had a moment of clarity, if you will. I had a spiritual awakening, if you will, when I looked up at this crowd, this sea of humanity that was waiting to give the police their, what was called a VIP, very important person, missing persons report. It's kind of like a 9-page report, along with toothbrushes and hair samples and, DNA, right? They were looking to see if they could identify, or if we, the police, could identify or help identify their loved one. And as I looked out in this sea of humanity, I had this moment of clarity where I didn't really see people. I just saw like at the soul level and recognized that there's no difference between us. The differences that we make, well, that's on the intellect level. That's on the personality level. Differences by race, differences by religion, differences by faith practices, differences by believing in God or not believing in God, differences in we're Republicans or Democrats. Oh God, these are just, the differences in the separation. We can go on and on and on about it. But let's go right to the heart space as the door that opens up and accepts. We're not just accepting other. We're accepting and awakening the fact that there is no other. You see, that's the key. There is no other. It's an illusion to think that we're separate from each other. We're not. Now, I may sound good. I may sound real good. But I got to tell you that it's a struggle on a daily basis to, as Rumi says, welcome the guests into the house. The good, the bad, the ugly. What about people who are, mass shootings that are happening all over the world and all over our country? I just now read about this morning, Sister Chris and I were having our coffee and talking about, what's happening in Jerusalem between the Palestinians, the Palestinians and the Israelis right now. It's this, tell them that let's think about the soul level here, that there's no other. Let's think about that from their perspective. It's complicated, but not really. It's only complicated if I'm trying to access it through here. It becomes simple and easy if I access it from the heart space. And in the heart space is where I experience God. I'm going to close with this. I think I have 15 minutes, but I'm probably at the 15, right, Reverend Darby? Can kind of just give me a nod. Oh, no one's timing me. That's not good. I meant to time myself, but Todd, just mute me when it's, when it's over. Okay, good. You can even give me a private message in the chat. Just let me know. Hey, you got the 2-minute warning or something. I've been doing something for a few years now during Ramadan, and that is immersing myself in the 99 names of Allah, because I get to really understand and appreciate and know God in a different way through God's attributes, through God's characteristics. Because God's not a noun, God's a verb. And so through this process of immersing myself in the practice, and every day we're doing it, and we have a couple of days left. It's the only reason I know that Ramadan ends on May 12th, the evening of. And then you have that whole day of celebrating from the fast. And so through this Ramadan experience that I've been doing now for several years, which is really a Sufi, it's kind of a Sufi practice, I'm learning more and more about how I may not know God, because I think it's kind of arrogant for us to think that we know God, but we can experience God through God's characteristics and through God's attributes. We experience God. And in that experience of God, we get to know God a little bit more. In the same way, knowing each other is not going to really happen here. To really know each other is to experience each other, and to experience each other at the soul level. And at that soul level, the door to that is the heart space. Namaste.
Wow. And that was only a few minutes. I think I'm going to sign up for that master's program. Wow. And I can't wait to hear what the groups are going to have to say, because you gave us some real beautiful things to think about. And I just jotted down a whole bunch of notes for my own benefit. But I think what touched me really, most of what you said was that moment of clarity that you described, of seeing all those people of all races and all walks of life, and seeing them as souls, seeing them as all one. And that's where it's at. We are all one. So everybody else, now it's up to you. So we're going to break up into these small groups. Todd is going to do his magic stuff and make that happen. Each group is going to have a facilitator. So, and each group will have a recorder. And I got to get my notes up here so I can look at what we're going to talk about, specifically 2 questions. And I'm going to read those to you in just a moment. Todd, if you can put up the slide of our principles for interfaith dialogue. These are principles that are really central to the heart of JAM and All, and they were compiled several years ago by, I believe it was by our women's dialogue group. And these really are the principles that help us to keep a safe space and open conversation. So while you're just sort of perusing those, I just want to share with you a quote I just came across a couple of days ago that talks about probably like the most important and maybe the most difficult key to open and safe dialogue, which is listening. And in her essay, Manifesto for a Moral Revolution, Jacqueline Novogratz writes, listening is a lifelong process. It requires continual practice, especially when we become too accustomed to believing that our own assumptions are correct. If you want to serve, you must begin by listening, not assuming. And I think that goes back to the whole idea of there really is no other. And as long as we listen to the other, and this goes back to what we talked about last month, then we're going to have a really, really good opportunity to learn from each other and to share. So as we share and as we listen, these are the 2 questions we'll be focusing on. The first is, what impacted you the most from Reverend Grace's comments? And the second is, what steps will you take to allow acceptance and less resistance to connect with others? Again, that's what steps will you take, this is for you personally, to allow acceptance and less resistance to connect with others. So each group is going to select a reporter, and I know that sometimes our facilitators, who do such a great job, they get so involved they forget to choose a reporter. So somebody in your group, make sure we have a reporter, because that's the person who's going to report back to the whole group after half an hour. And they're going to report back one aha moment, one nugget, a significant piece, which we know is very difficult from your discussion to just focus in on one. But you'll get a 5-minute warning. And again, everybody in your group, please watch for that, because sometimes it's easy to miss when you really get into discussion. And when the 5-minute warning comes up, that's a good time to kind of wrap up your discussion and then spend the rest of the time focusing on what that thing is that your group wants to bring back to the larger group. So, Todd, is there something I forgot? You take it from here.
Thanks, Reverend Darby. Hey, friends, I'm going to open up these breakout rooms in just a moment. A number of you had volunteered to be facilitators for us tonight. We're only going to be using 6 rooms tonight so that we can have a number of people to really have a great conversation. These rooms have been assigned through the cosmic energy. So these are cosmic picks, and I want you to trust and know that even if you know people that are in your room, that there is something there for you to offer and give, and something there in that room for you to receive when you really do take the time to listen. What a great presentation tonight. I'm so excited to be with you all again tonight. So I'm going to open up these breakout rooms. Tonight, we're actually going to have about 40 minutes. So you will get a 5-minute warning to let you know when to stop, and then we will come back. I do see a message to repeat the questions, Darby, so I'll get you to do that. Again, we're going to have about 40 minutes in our rooms, and you're going to pick out your reporter, and everybody hold up your index finger. We want one idea to come back so that we can share and we get to hear from all of our groups, okay? Darby, will you repeat the questions, and then I'm going to get ready to open up the rooms.
I will. The first is, what impacted you the most from Reverend Grace's comments? And the second is, what steps will you take to allow acceptance and less resistance to connect with others?
Perfect. All right. You'll be getting an invitation now to go into your breakout room. So just accept that in the lower right-hand corner. And we will see you in just about 40 minutes. And here comes everyone. There we go. Welcome back, everyone. Everyone is now back in our main room. I want to invite all of our facilitators to indicate in the chat who is going to be reporting for your group, if you don't mind, because we want to get started and share some piece of wisdom that came out of your group tonight. So I see that Stephanie's group, the room 1. I want to invite you, Stephanie, to go ahead and to unmute yourself and start speaking.
Okay, but the reporter for my group is Doreen Klein.
Doreen, okay. Doreen, can you unmute yourself for me?
I certainly can. Okay, everybody hear me?
We can.
Okay. We were talking how 9/11 invoked feelings of the heart that we talked about, feeling of oneness. It was almost like any kind of other major disaster, but 10 times worse. But in time it was gone, and we realized our heart needs to be reawakened, but we don't know how. But that feeling should be a touchstone of what things could be. But we all discussed, how do we do it? How do we make people want to all feel that way again? And how do we achieve it?
Excellent. Great takeaway. Thank you so much. And now I am Opal. Can you unmute yourself and start sharing with us from group 2?
Certainly. Hi, everyone. Reverend Grace, thank you for coming. We talked about the intention. We want to, in order to allow acceptance and to have less resistance to connect, we want to go into the sacred space with someone else with the intention of seeing them from the cellular level. We like that characterization. See them from that cellular level and to see them as we see ourselves, also as the light of God. We talk about namaste, light in you, me, light in me, that sort of thing. But we mentioned something about the Quaker tradition of knowing that there's that of God in everyone. And so to take that into that situation, no matter how difficult it is, and to help them to walk away feeling that their humanity is still intact, because they are indeed us. So we meet at the cellular level. So that is our intent. We know that it's a difficult thing, but that's what we are going to aim for.
Excellent. Thank you so very much. Now I want to invite Karen. Can you unmute yourself and share from your group with us?
Yes. We want to look for and support organizations that foster activities with people of diverse backgrounds and cultures can experience something together, perhaps with a common goal, so that they can establish a relationship and know that they are not others. And I've forgotten some of it, but one of the last things was mentioned was the idea, if there were a reality show of showing some kind of an organization working like of that, with people experiencing something together with common goals and working for good, to demonstrate that. And
what a fun idea. Thank you so very much for sharing with us. We truly appreciate that. Laura Sue, can I get you to unmute and share with us from your group?
I just have to say, I wrote down reality show and with an asterisk on my notes, like maybe that's a future jam project. So breakout 4, we had a great discussion facilitated by Ken Thomas. And let's see, our one takeaway, I'm going to cram a lot of stuff into one thing here. We definitely felt that coming from the heart space, as that was a big thing that we took away from Grace, and loving others can be really transformational, although there is some question of, can you love someone if you don't know them? Like, how important is knowledge in there? And some of the important things to remember in that process, very important to remember that we have a shared goal that we're trying to get to, even if we're coming from different places, and making eye contact and sharing food can be very helpful techniques. And sharing food, that's definitely a jam thing. So those were some of the things we felt were important and useful and practical.
Thank you, Laura Sue. We appreciate your sharing.
Thanks.
Audrey, can I get you to unmute yourself and share from your group?
Sure. Vernell was our facilitator, and we too were looking at the cellular versus cellular, and that there's no difference between us in the heart space. And just from the conversation, it seemed there were ups and downs. The ups were, we've been sequestered with COVID. Now's the time to get out and really meet people, especially people who are different or more confrontational, to educate ourselves in terms of what other people are experiencing or their other traditions, to open up differences to take a look at the differences that occur. And a good way of doing that, we decided, was to come from a feeling level, because we really are all the same underneath, and switching something from the ideas to the feelings behind them we think would really make a huge difference. Another is you have to be willing to do the work and just give it a try and get to know people, get out there and be your best person. That's it.
Thanks.
It was
so much,
really
Audrey.
fun. 40 minutes sounded like a really long time, but it flew.
Right? When you're having a great conversation with engaged people, and it gives us a chance to practice that really important thing of learning to listen. What a great opportunity. Thank you for sharing, Audrey. I think we have one more group left to share, and my chat got kind of full with some messages. So who else is left to report for us? I think from group 5, Linda's group. Who's going to share from that group?
Hi.
Hi.
We came to different conclusions, but actually they all became the same. We feel that it's important to listen mindfully, to listen with your head and your heart. We also feel that we should seek out more diversity in our lives, to touch base with people that are different from us and accept each other for what we are and what we can be. And if I personally feel if I can't, I'll just say I will agree to disagree.
Thank you so much, Marion. Appreciate you sharing. So I now want to take this opportunity to turn it back over to Reverend Darby.
All righty. So it's amazing that each time we do one of these, the takeaways get better and better. And this was great. I had a great time in the group that I was in, and just so much good stuff. I mean, this is why we do what we do, right? So I'd like to put the spotlight back on Reverend Grace now. What are your thoughts about all this good stuff that's been brought up?
So yeah, sounds like there's a lot of springboard for discussion. And two things that I take away from the takeaways is that this is a reality show. What we're in right now as humans, spiritual beings having a human experience, is that we're in a reality show. And some of us are behaving pretty badly on the show, and some of us aren't. But the other thing that I take away from the takeaway is it sounded like 9/11 was a heartbreaker, and that times like mass shootings, Parkland, for example, for those of us who live in the Fort Lauderdale, Florida region here, when you watch something on television, like the shooting of an elementary school and children dying, so these are heartbreakers. And in recovery, we talk about something called the gift of desperation, and it's like hitting a bottom. And when we hit a bottom, that's when we're able to really accept and surrender to a new way of living, and a new way of being, and a new way of seeing, and a new way of perceiving, seeing with spirit vision, and not just our vision here, human vision, but with spirit vision. We gain altitude and it changes our attitude. So unfortunately, we as humans in this reality show might have to hit a bottom. And maybe we haven't hit a bottom yet. It's because we are able, when our heart breaks open, that gateway, as Rumi also says, where where the light is where, you know, the healing can happen. Where the break is, that's where the light enters and the healing can happen. So regrettably, maybe for humans, we have to get to that gift of desperation. And that might mean some more heartbreak has to happen, because it's in the breaking of the heart and that doorway opening that we're able to really see at the cellular level. So good luck to my fellow contestants in the reality show.
Wow, that's like that. Yeah, that kind of brings it all in. Thank you. Thank you.
May I
so
say
much.
something, please?
Mhm.
I was the facilitator in the group with Sue Bouton, and she's the one that mentioned reality show. And my goodness, it's truly a wonderful a construct for us.
Indeed. Oh, this is so great. Thank you all so much. And thank you, Reverend Grace. It just, wow, I'm, if I were Jewish, I would say I'm kvelling. I think that's the word. I just feel so filled. Thank you all. So I would just like to mention that if this evening has been for you what it has been for me, if the world that we're talking about building is the world that you want to live in and you want your children and grandchildren to live in, please consider becoming a part of Jam and All. It's very easy. You go to our website and click Become a Member. It's $20 for a year. That's for you and your family. And by becoming a part of the Jam and All Interfaith family, you're becoming a part of building this new world, this vision, which Jam and All has defined as a world where people are valued equally and treated equitably, where differences are understood and embraced, and where all spiritual paths and faith traditions coexist harmoniously. That's what we're going for. And if you haven't been to our website, please do. It's jamandallinterfaith.net. You can keep in touch with all the stuff that we're doing. We, by the way, are going to be taking a break after June. June 14th is the last of this series of 3. It's going to be, our presenter is going to be Dr. Jaleel Thurber, and he's going to be introducing the topic of breaking down walls to create community. And then we're going to take a break, but we will be doing anything but sitting on our hands. We are already working on a spectacular fall because it's our 20th anniversary. And it's also the 20th anniversary of 9/11. So we will be building some really wonderful programs. And if you want to help us with those, please let us know, because the more the merrier, and many hands make light work and all that good stuff. So just stay tuned to our website. And if you're not subscribed to our newsletter, you can do that on the website as well. jamandallinterfaith.net. And I can't see, but I imagine Laura Sue is putting that in the chat probably more than once. You can register for our events there and keep track of what we're doing. Interfaith. I would like to just close the evening with a wish. It's from an author and teacher and yogacharya named Ellen Grace O'Brien. She says, like a great tree that drinks from the sun's rays at dawn and turns them to shade for the weary passerby at noon, each morning drink from the fountain of divine love and become refreshment for those you meet. And may it be so. Thank you again, Reverend Grace. Thanks to all of you, to our facilitators, recorders, and everybody who joined us this evening. Thank you, Reverend Todd. Good night.